All right, thank you all for being here today. This is Solar Oregon's How to Go Solar and Storage workshop. We we will be discussing how you can get started on your solar energy journey. So first up on the agenda today, we will first be talking about how solar works and what components make up a solar system. We will then discuss how you can know if your home is right for solar. We will then dive into the exciting topic of home energy storage before discussing the various incentives that you can utilize in order to help pay for solar and storage. And then we will talk about how you can get started. While I do a few more housekeeping things, I'm also going to start a few polls. These are completely anonymous and are just a way for us to know who is in the Zoom room and use it for reporting for grants and other things we work on. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out while I'm talking and doing some housekeeping, I'd be very appreciative. So first up, a little bit about the organization that I work for, Solar Oregon. I'm a program manager at Solar Oregon, and at Solar Oregon, we focus on education, outreach, and community advocacy. We do this through a variety of educational workshops, including our How to Go Solar and Storage workshop, which is where you are today, solar tours that are of residential solar, and then also some large-scale multi-family or business solarized campaigns that can help you go solar with your neighbor, and peer-to-peer education. You can support our work by becoming a member or donating today. There's a QR code on the screen that you can utilize for that. You can also follow us on social media and Eventbrite at Solar Oregon in order to hear about what great events we have coming up. I'm going to launch the next poll really quick. Thank you so much for filling that one out. For some reason, our upcoming events image is not loading. Not sure what that's about. Something odd with technology, but we do have some great upcoming events, including our annual meeting, which is going to be on December 4th. So if you're interested in getting more involved with Solar Oregon, please check that out. This workshop is also made possible by the Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent nonprofit that provides access to affordable energy. They serve the 1.6 million customers of Portland General Electric, Pacific Power, Northwest Natural Gas, and Avista. Thank you so much, Energy Trust of Oregon, for your support. And with that, I'm going to launch the last pre-webinar survey. Throughout the survey, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A button area at the bottom of your screen. It will look like where this orange arrow is pointing. At the end of the presentation, I will be going through those questions, so feel free to put them in at any time. I will also be dropping some really great information in the chat at the end of the presentation as well. As I said, I'll be going through these questions at the end, so don't feel like you need to wait for the end in order to put your questions in. You can put them into the Q&A at any time. And with that, I'm going to give about 5 more seconds for this final survey, and then I will get started with how solar works. So here's a diagram of your basic solar system. We start with the photovoltaic or PV panel. On the left, this is what would be mounted on the ground or on the roof of your home. And when sunlight hits this photovoltaic panel, a volt of electricity is generated. From there, it then flows into the inverter or microinverter, which is what converts the volt of electricity generated by the PV panel, which is DC electricity, into usable AC electricity that can be utilized by your home. I'll be talking about inverters more in depth on one of the next slides. From the inverter, the electricity will flow into your home to power your lights, computer, electric vehicle, and anything else that runs on electricity. If at any point in time your photovoltaic panels are generating more electricity than your home is using, the excess electricity will flow out to the grid via a bidirectional utility meter. This also means that if at any point your photovoltaic panels are not generating as much electricity as you need to run your home, you will be able to pull power from the utility grid. This is what allows us to have net metering and is something I'll be talking more in depth on later slides. But all in all, these are the basic components of what is required for a solar system on your home. It's really simple and highly adaptable based on your specific needs. Now let's dive into some of these components a little bit more in depth. So first we have the inverter or microinverter. We have a inverter pictured on the left and microinverters pictured on the right. Both of these devices work the exact same in that they convert DC direct current electricity to usable AC electricity for your home. Both are installed frequently throughout Oregon, and it really just depends on the needs of your system and what the recommendation is from your solar contractor for your specific home. An inverter, as pictured on the left, like I said, takes all the electricity from all the solar panels at once and converts it all at once. So for a 10-panel system, you will have only one inverter. In contrast, microinverters, which to be clear are the little black boxes mounted on the back of the solar panels here, only take in the electricity from 1 to 2 panels at a time and convert just that amount of electricity to then flow into your home. So if you have a 10-panel system, you'll have up to 10 microinverters mounted on the back sides of your solar panels, converting that electricity to AC. As I said, both are installed frequently throughout Oregon. It just really depends on the specific needs of your system. Next, we have mounting. So this is how your solar system is actually either mounted on the ground or on the roof of your home. Here in Portland, Oregon, we most commonly see roof-mounted systems, which is what's pictured on the left. However, ground-mounted systems are just as common in areas of Oregon where there can be more space and you have that extra space to use for it. It certainly is a great option. It can be a little bit more expensive because you will need to run conduit from the ground-mounted solar panels back into your home. But if you have the space, it certainly is a really great option for you to utilize. Next, there are solar roof tiles. This is a newer product, and it is both a roofing product and a solar product. So it's solar that is your roof. There are several brands available, but as I said, it is a newer technology, and therefore it is much more expensive. If you are interested in getting solar roof tiles as opposed to traditional solar panels, make sure your contractor has installed them before and ask to speak to a client they have already worked with and competed with to make as a reference in order to ensure that you are getting the quality work to help protect your home from the elements. Price declines have been predicted, but none quite have come to fruition yet and are very unpredictable. So if you are interested in this product, we highly recommend you don't wait for price declines, as you could be waiting for quite some time. So next, as I mentioned, with a grid-tied solar system, you're able to both pull electricity from the grid when your solar panels are not generating enough electricity and can send electricity out to the grid to be used by your friends and neighbors at any point when you're generating more electricity than your home is using. This process is known as net metering. So I'm going to walk through 2 quick examples and then a sample of how net metering will look on your utility bill in order to explain how this process works and how it helps save you money and help save you money with your solar system. So first, let's pretend we're back in sunny July. It is hot, it is boiling, it is not cold outside, and I'm definitely not wearing a beanie because it's nice and hot and sunny, and your solar panels on your roof are producing so much electricity. That's this orange bar here on the left. However, your consumption has not changed that much. It is only about half of the amount of electricity your solar panels are needing. That means you're generating all the rest of the excess solar you're producing is flowing out to the grid to be used by your friends and neighbors. And it is and you are earning credits for that power you are exporting to the grid. Now, it's a little bit colder. It's still pretty sunny out when I peek out my window, but I know that the grayer days are coming and we pretend it is even colder than it is today. We can see here on the right that your solar panels are still producing some amount of electricity even during the gray, cold months where there's lots of cloud cover. However, it does not quite meet your expected consumption from the grid, which has stayed about the same between the summer and winter months. This means you're having to draw more power from the grid because your solar panels are not creating enough. However, you built up all these net metering credits during the summer and you get to use them up all winter long. Net metering credits roll over from month to month, allowing you to build that bank of excess generation credit and then use them up all winter long. It is important to remember, though, that while net metering credits roll over from month to month, they do not roll over from year to year. That means that if at the end of the net metering year, which begins and ends on March 31st, April 1st, you have excess credits, you forfeit those credits and donate them to nonprofits and low-income energy subscribers. This is why sizing your system is very important and something I'm again going to be talking about on an upcoming slide. So now that I've explained how net metering works, I'm going to go through an example energy bill. So here we can see the net meter reading at the beginning of the month and the net meter reading at the end of the month. And from this reading, we can calculate that the net period usage was negative 327 kilowatt hours. This means that this customer generated 327 kilowatt hours of excess energy that went into their year-to-date banked excess generation, which is right here about midway up the bill, and their billable kilowatt hours for this period are 0. So they have just added more to that banked excess generation that they can utilize all winter long while it's a bit cloudier. And they are not charged for any usage for this period. However, if we look over at the account charges and amount due, we can see that unfortunately, despite having 0 billable kilowatt hours, the amount due is not 0. That is because just to be connected to the grid, you have to pay a certain amount of taxes and fees in order to help cover maintenance to the grid and to be connected in the first place. Typically, that amount ranges from about $10 to $20, so while we won't have a bill of $0.00, that is quite a bit less than the average utility bill here in Oregon, which is around $65 to $70 and subject to rate increases year over year. So now as I'm going to discuss system size. So as I said, you are unable to be compensated for any excess credits you generate throughout the net metering year. If you have excess credits at the end of the net metering year, you forfeit those credits and donate them to PGE. This is why it's very important to size your solar system to meet and not exceed your expected electricity usage. A solar contractor will ask to see some of your past electricity bills and talk to you about any lifestyle changes or changes to your home that you're anticipating. These can include having someone move in or out of your home, getting an electric vehicle, or switching to more energy efficient appliances. All of these will impact your expected usage and are something that your solar contractor will discuss with you, as they want to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck and are not paying for extra solar panels that you might not end up needing. There are other factors that can also impact the size of your system that can include available space, your budget, and aesthetic considerations. A typical solar system is measured in kilowatts, and the average size of a solar system here in Oregon is about 8 kilowatts. So now, how can you know if your home is right for solar? So first off, no matter where you are in the state, in general, we receive enough solar access here in Oregon in order to have solar. Between when the sun is in the highest point, in the sky at the summer solstice and the lowest point in the sky at the winter solstice, we can see that the sun is always in the southern hemisphere, southern half of the sky. This means that as long as you're not installing solar on a north-facing roof, which honestly solar contractors won't even do as there's not enough solar access, you can get solar. Typically, solar is installed on both south, east, and west-facing and combinations thereof roof planes. However, south and directly facing south roofs are the most common and most beneficial. One thing that can prohibit you from going solar is shade. If your home is very well shaded by some of the large, gorgeous trees we have throughout Oregon, you can have not enough solar access, even if your roof is facing perfectly south. That's just because those trees are doing their job and providing some really great shade to your home. If this is the case for you, I highly recommend looking into community solar. And at the end presentation, I will be dropping some links in the chat that will include information about that. Another thing that can impact your ability to go solar is your roof complexity. If you have a more complex roof, like pictured on the left, even if you have a lot of south-facing roof planes, they can tend to be a lot smaller, and that can lead to some added costs as multiple smaller arrays will have to be installed rather than one large continuous array. In contrast, there's the more simple roof pictured on the right, where one continuous array will be able to be installed, and that can just save you some costs and engineering fees. The second aspect of your roof is not just how your roof is designed, but your roof condition and the age of your roof. We highly recommend that you have 20 plus years of roof life left, as in order to re-roof your home, solar must be taken off and then reinstalled, which can add in just some added costs of around $10,000 to $15,000 and can lead to solar panels getting damaged, which can further increase costs. If you have an older roof, we highly recommend waiting to install solar until after you re-roof your home. And if you are in the process of re-roofing and you are interested in getting solar, definitely mention that to your roofing contractor, as there are some roof types that are better suited for solar than others, though solar can be installed on all types of roofs. Now, not just what's on top of your roof matters, but also what's under it. If you are having roof-mounted solar system, your roof has to be able to support the weight of the solar system. If you have trusses, which are these vertical bars pictured on the left, you can pass even the most stringent engineering and weight requirements for solar. However, if you only have rafters, which are pictured on the right, you may need to get some added engineering done in order to prove that your roof can support the added weight of solar, and in extreme cases, possibly even add in trusses to add some extra supports to your roof in order to ensure that you can support the solar system. If you do have to go that route, that can just lead to some added costs and fees. And in extreme cases, such as some of the older Victorian colonial homes around Portland, even with added trusses and engineering, the city of Portland will not permit you to go solar due to the weight of the solar panels on the roof. So again, in that case, I would highly recommend looking into community solar, which I will be putting some information in the chat about later. So now that I've gone through some of the basics of a solar system, let's talk about the exciting topic of energy storage. So first off, solar makes storage more effective because it allows you to have energy resilience. Energy resilience is the ability to use power when the grid is down. If you just have solar on your roof, when the grid goes down, you will also lose power, as no power can be flowing out into the grid in order to protect anyone that is working on the grid providing maintenance. However, if you have a home battery system, you can island your home and allow yourself to retain power in the event of an outage. So now, why would you want energy? First off, really quick, here's just an example of what solar and storage look like in practice. We have a battery here in the garage and solar on the roof. So now, why would you be interested in having energy resilience? So there can be short, frequent outages caused by storms or squirrels. I know I've experienced a few outages here in Portland from snow and ice storms. Here in Oregon, we also have public safety power shutoffs, the first of which occurred in 2020. This is when the power companies shut off the grid in order to lower the fire danger in certain areas. We also face the unique risk of the Cascadia seismic hazard. This is a unique risk where a large earthquake could make the Willamette Valley lose power in totality for up to 3 weeks, and even longer in other areas of Oregon, such on the coast, where it's predicted power could not be restored for possibly several months in the event of an earthquake. So when it comes to picking a battery, if you are looking to protect yourself from any of these outages, there are many brands and chemistries available. However, some installers may specialize in one specific brand or battery. This means if you know you want a specific one, make sure it is one that your contractor is used to working with and is able to acquire and install for you. There is no mixing and matching of batteries. So if you already have a Tesla Powerwall, you will be unable to get an E2 battery. However, your solar panels and your batteries can be different brands. There's just mixing and matching different battery chemistries and brands. And lastly, it's important to know how long you're expecting to back up your home for. It can be prohibitively expensive to back up your entire home for a significant length of time. So what most people choose to do is a partial home backup. This is when you pick specific outlets and areas of your home to retain power in the event of an outage. You do this through the creation of an essential loads panel. This is where a secondary electric panel is added to your home and specific breakers are moved to the panel. Then in the event of an outage, only that secondary panel and the breakers on it will retain power while the rest of your home will be shut off. This does add complexity and cost, but can allow you to retain power for a longer period of time. When thinking about creating a central loads panel, it is a question of what needs power and for how long. Typically, people choose to back up a refrigerator, some lights in common areas, and an outlet or two. However, the more things you have on the central loads panel, the shorter amount of time your battery will last, as the ability to recharge your battery using your solar panel, while very possible, will be dependent on the weather and how much sun is getting to your solar panels. Now there's the question of when to install storage. Storage can be installed at any point in time, whether you already have a solar system or you're looking to just add storage to an existing solar system. However, you will save money if you install storage at the same time, and that is just because you are not having to pay for electricians and contractors to come out for a second time. However, storage can be added to an existing system at an extra cost. Last thing about batteries is that batteries require space. Ideally, they can be installed near an electric panel. However, they can also be installed outdoors or just in a garage or empty area. However, they cannot be in a crawl space or cupboard. And wherever they installed must meet the National Electric Code. So now with all these technologies, I'm going to begin talking about the various incentives that can help you pay for them. So first up, we have the Solar Investment Tax Credit, or ITC. This is 30% of the total cost of your system as a dollar for dollar tax credit. And now really quick, before I discuss more about the ITC, this is not official tax advice. I am not a tax professional. Please consult a tax professional for specific tax advice. And as with any major financial decision, be sure you are making the best decisions for you. So now a little bit about the investment tax credit. This, as I said, this is a 30% dollar for dollar incentive that can be applied to both solar and storage and can be claimed over several years. So if you do not have enough tax liability to claim the entire credit in 1 year, it can be split up over multiple years. There are many myths about what can be claimed using the investment tax credit. One the most pervasive is that re-roofing costs, if you have to re-roof in order to go solar, costs can be claimed under it. However, this is false. If you have questions about what specifically can be claimed, I highly recommend consulting a tax professional. Next up are the Energy Trust of Oregon solar incentives. These are straight incentives, so $1,000 for PGE customers, $1,200 for Pacific Power customers, and there's a separate storage incentive, $500 per kilowatt hour, up to $6,000 maximum per home for energy storage. These incentives are very easy to claim because you as a customer, the only thing you have to do is work with an Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally contractor. Trade Ally contractors have been vetted by Energy Trust of Oregon and are familiar with all the requirements they need to meet in order to get you these incentives. They will apply for it on your behalf. And as I said, the only thing you have to do is choose to work with a Trade Ally contractor. You will then see the deductions of these amounts depending on what specifically your project is on your bill. You can claim the storage incentive whether you already have a solar system or are installing a solar and storage system at the same time. And similarly, you can claim the solar credit with or without the added storage benefit. They do stack in that way. The second Energy Trust of Oregon incentive program is Solar Within Reach. This is a income qualified program that just offers very similar incentives at just slightly higher dollar amounts. So for Pacific Power customers, it's $1 per watt of solar added, up to $6,000. And for storage, it's 750 per kilowatt hour, up to $10,000. And for PGE customers, it is $1.20 per watt added, up to $7,200. And for storage, it's $1,000 per kilowatt hour, up to $13,000. The income cutoff threshold for a family of four is $128,564. So even if you are not low income, we highly recommend looking into this program as the income cutoff threshold is very generous. Now I'm going to be going through some example budgets in just a moment. However, first, I want to be very clear that these are only example budgets. As I've said, solar systems are highly modular based on what you as a customer want for your system and what your goals are. Because of this, the cost of both a solar and storage system can vary greatly based on the specifics of your home. And these budgets are just examples of what it could look like. So first up, here's a sample budget if you are just installing solar. So the cost for an 8 kilowatt solar system before incentives is about $32,000. From there, you then we assume you choose to work with a vetted Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally contractor in order to claim that Energy Trust of Oregon incentive, lowering the price by $1,000 or just over $1,000 for middle and high income customers. And if you are low to moderate income, lowering it up quite a bit more. That takes the out-of-pocket cost to you, the customer, to $30,800 or $31,000. And if you're income qualified, $26,000 to $24,800. From there, you are then responsible for claiming the 30% federal tax credit, which decreases the cost by another 30%, making the final cost to the customer before the energy savings, don't forget that incentive, to be $21,500 to $21,700, depending on your utility. And for Pacific Power or low to moderate income, $18,200, and for PGE, $17,360. Now, if you're choosing to install solar and storage at the same time, we have an 8 kilowatt solar system and a 13.5 kilowatt hour storage system, making the cost before incentives across the board $52,000. You then get all the Energy Trust of Oregon incentives that you can qualify for, bringing the out-of-pocket cost to you, the customer, to about $45,000 or between 36,000, 31,000 if you are income qualified. You then can claim the 30% federal tax credit, which lowers it another 30%, making the final cost to the customer before energy savings about $31,000 or 25 to 22,000 if you are income qualified. And the last budget just goes over if you're adding a 13.5 kilowatt hour storage system and you have previously added an 8 kilowatt solar system to your home. So that cost of solar is $32,000 and the cost of battery added after solar is about $23,000. You can then claim all the Energy Trust of Oregon incentives. They do stack no matter how you are installing your system. And that makes the out-of-pocket costs to the customer before $47,800 or $48,000, and if you're income qualified, between $39,000 and $34,800. You can then claim the 30% federal tax credit, making the final cost to the customer before energy savings $33,460 or between $27,000 and $24,000 if you are income qualified. These are some very large numbers, even with the incentives available. And so I want to be clear that financing is very common. There are some loan products tailored specifically for solar. Typically, products that are tailored to solar will allow you to refinance after claiming and receiving that 30% federal tax credit. Your solar installer may have a financing partner, or you can also talk to your bank and local credit union about your options. As I said, with any major financial decisions, make sure you are being aware of possible scams and reviewing all your options before making any decisions. So now with all this information, how do you get started? So as I've said, I recommend working with an Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally contractor. They have already been rigorously qualified by the Energy Trust of Oregon, and they are approved to offer all Energy Trust of Oregon incentives and are familiar with the design and installation requirements. You can request a quote from the Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally program using their solar bid tool. This is a free and easy to use tool that you can find online. I'll be linking to it in the chat in just a moment. You put in some information about your home and what your goals are for a solar system. And from there, it will connect you with up to 3 contractors who work in your area to provide you with free quotes. 3 contractors and free quotes. Apologies about that. Once you have selected and signed all the paperwork with your solar contractor, your contractor will complete all paperwork except for the solar tax credit. Permitting can take from 2 to 12 months, depending on where you are at in the state. Some areas are faster than others. And however, once all the permitting is complete, installation is very quick, taking only 1 to 4 days. And your contractor will manage all inspections and interconnections. So now with that, I'm going to move into the Q&A. I know I already see a lot of questions in the chat. So the first one I'm seeing is if someone has installed solar a few years ago and now want to add storage, are the incentives still available? Yes, if you installed solar a few years ago, you can still get the incentives. You can claim both the 30% federal tax credit again, I believe. Please consult a tax professional, as I am not one. I'd probably get a bigger tax return if I was. And you can also claim the Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally Contractor Incentive as well. Okay, but thank you for your question. We also got a question asking if one can shut off and turn on loads as necessary. I'm assuming that this was a question about the essential loads panel. You can, if you have a battery, you can turn off more loads if you want to further extend the life of your battery, just like you can turn off the breaker to any part of your home at any point in time. However, without a battery panel, your solar system cannot continue without a battery, your solar system cannot continue to send power into your home as no power, if you are generating more power than your home is needing, can flow out to the grid. This is just to protect anyone working to help repair the grid while they are working. The next question I'm seeing is if there are any Oregon state tax rebates. So the Oregon Department of Energy used to have a solar and storage incentive. However, in the 2022 legislative session, this tax incentive was not refunded and at this point has been used up. If you support ODOE having a solar incentive again, I would recommend talking to your legislatures. And does the storage incentive apply to generators as well? I do not believe it does. I believe it's just for home battery storage, not for gas generators. However, I can certainly look into that and get back to you if you would like to email us at info@solaroregon.org. Um, okay. I'm going to leave the chat open, but I'm also going to go and grab those links I mentioned. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so that I can get those for everyone. Ooh. And please feel free to keep putting links in the chat. I'm also going to send out the final poll here, just so that we can get some information about how you think we all did, how I did today. But as I said, the Q&A is still open. Feel free to continue to put your questions in there. I'm happy to stay on for as long as I need to in order to get your questions answered. We got one more question. Are credits applicable only in the year after install or at contract signing? I believe the solar tax credit, which is what I'm assuming you're asking about, is able to be utilized in the year of the solar is installed and paid for. I would ask a tax professional that specific question. If you do not have enough tax liability in the year, in your first year claiming that credit, however, you can claim it over multiple years. Well, thank you all for being here today. That is all I have for this presentation, but I really appreciate everyone being here. If you have any outstanding questions or would like to talk more with us here at Solar Oregon, you can contact us at info@solaroregon.org. But thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a great afternoon.